The soft rebellion. Why refusing to give up means learning to let go. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that stopped me in my tracks, something that made me question everything I thought I knew about resilience, about endurance, about what it truly means to refuse to give up. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Summer Smith, a voice that's reshaping how we think about entrepreneurship, resilience, and the power of community. Summer Smith is not just a thought leader, they are a movement maker, someone who has dedicated their work to illuminating the paths of Black entrepreneurs in Canada, showing us that endurance isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, building, and creating legacies that transform entire communities. What Summer shared with me, what the research reveals, is something I believe will shift the way you see your own journey, your own hustle, and your own right to rest while you rise. Here's the thing that caught me completely off guard. Despite facing higher loan rejection rates, despite systemic barriers like limited access to informal investor networks, despite all the doors that have been slammed in their faces, Black entrepreneurs in Canada remain wildly, beautifully, defiantly optimistic about their long term success. They're projecting to grow from 2.4% to 3.2% of all business owners by 2034, creating tens of thousands of new enterprises. Thanks to targeted programs like the Black Entrepreneurship Program and community ecosystems that turn endurance into scalable growth. Let that sink in for a moment. So they're not just surviving, they're scaling. They're not just enduring, they're expanding. And they're doing it in a world that wasn't designed to support them. Now, I know some of you listening are thinking, LeAnne, I'm tired. I've been grinding for years. I've been the strong one, the dependable one, the one who never quits, but I'm exhausted. And sis, I hear you. That's exactly why this conversation with Summer Smith matters so much, because what they revealed to me is that refusing to give up doesn't mean you have to keep carrying the weight alone. It means you learn to leverage the ecosystems, the partnerships, the programs, and the communities that are designed to hold you up while you build. Let me walk you through what Summer Smith and the research taught me, because it's a blueprint, not just for business, but for life, for healing, for the kind of freedom that comes when you finally stop trying to prove you're strong enough and start believing you're worthy enough. First, Black entrepreneurs are thriving by combining federal programs like the $189 million Black Entrepreneurship Program with bank specific offerings from RBC, CIBC, BMO, and Scotiabank. They're building credit readiness and overcoming capital shortages for sustainable scaling. This isn't about bootstrapping until you break. This is about strategic access. This is about knowing where the resources are and refusing to let pride or exhaustion keep you from reaching for them. This is about understanding that asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strategy. It's a declaration that you will not be stopped by barriers that were designed to keep you out. Second, they're prioritizing strategic partnerships and accelerators, collaborations with universities, corporate labs, and organizations like the Black Innovation Fund provide mentorship, investor introductions, and peer networks. These partnerships enable tech and retail founders to validate products and expand globally while hiring locally. In other words, they're not doing it alone, they're building teams, they're asking for help, they're saying yes to support, they're recognizing that the myth of the lone genius, the solo hustler, the woman who does it all by herself, is a lie that keeps us small, keeps us exhausted, and keeps us from the kind of exponential growth that happens when we let others in. And third, they're embracing community multiplier effects. Success isn't just financial, it's about deliberate local hiring, youth training, and e commerce pivots that create economic mobility. It's about demonstrating resilience that inspires the next generation of Black professionals and leaders. This is legacy work. This is softness in action because softness isn't about doing less, it's about doing what matters most with intention, with grace, and with the understanding that your rest is part of the revolution. Your boundaries are not selfish. Your softness is not surrender. Your refusal to burn out is a radical act of resistance. Now, let me share three stories that Summer Smith brought to my attention, stories that made me weep, made me cheer, and made me realize that the soft girl era isn't just for individuals, it's for entire movements, entire communities, entire generations. The first story is about Black founders in Toronto's tech scene, founders building scalable ventures in software and fintech, addressing financial inclusion in a capital scarce environment. These are first generation entrepreneurs from immigrant families who faced family risks, who put everything on the line, but who drew on community support to launch in hotspots like Toronto. They faced higher rejection rates for funding, limited informal networks, and systemic discrimination that hindered their early stage growth. They heard no more times than most of us could count. They were told their ideas weren't viable, their markets weren't big enough, their teams weren't experienced enough. But here's what they did: they didn't give up and they didn't do it alone. They utilized the Black Innovation Fund for equity and mentorship. They joined accelerators for business model validation. They partnered with universities for legitimacy. And the outcomes? They refined their products, secured institutional investment, and scaled beyond local markets with diverse hiring. They created global potential platforms and invested in youth coding initiatives. They boosted financial inclusion and diverse tech staffing, influencing Canada's entire SME innovation landscape. This is what refusing to give up looks like when you stop trying to do it alone. This is what happens when you let go of the cape and pick up the community. The second story is about retail and service Black owned businesses in urban Canada who pivoted during economic setbacks, focusing on community wealth building. These founders faced narrow margins, scarce collateral, and post pandemic disruptions like reduced foot traffic. They could have closed their doors, they could have walked away, they could have said, I tried, and that's enough. But instead, they blended commercial bank programs for Black firms with microloans from community funds and federal incentives. They shifted to e commerce, delivery, and digital marketing. They extended their runway for inventory and upgrades, reached new audiences, and sustained their operations. They endured systemic barriers but rebuilt through grassroots networks, sponsoring local events even before the pivot. They implemented employee training and expanded their digital presence. And the impact: they created hiring multipliers and mentored emerging entrepreneurs, enhancing community economic mobility. This is what softness looks like in business. It's pivoting without shame, it's asking for help without apology, it's resting when you need to and rising when you're ready. It's understanding that flexibility is not failure, it's wisdom. It's knowing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is change direction, change strategy, change the story you've been telling yourself about what success has to look like. The third story is about the Black Entrepreneurship Program itself, a collaboration with FACE and BDC that supports thousands of Black founders nationwide in starting and scaling businesses. This program was launched amid recognition of discrimination, and it's been renewed through 2030 to build on initial successes during Black History Month initiatives. It offers a $250,000 loan fund plus training and mentorship with tailored bank services from CIBC and Scotiabank for financial literacy and governance. The outcomes: tens of millions in loans dispersed, tens of thousands aided in becoming investor ready. The impact: a projected surge to 3.2% of business owners by 2034, fostering job creation and inclusive development. This is systemic support. This is what happens when we refuse to let barriers define us and instead build ecosystems that dismantle them. This is what happens when we stop waiting for permission and start creating the infrastructure that holds us up while we rise. Now, here's where I want to bring this home for you, sis, because I know you're listening and you're thinking, LeAnne, this is beautiful, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not building a tech startup. I'm just trying to make it through the week without losing my mind. I'm just trying to keep my job, keep my family together, keep myself from falling apart. But here's the truth that Summer Smith helped me see with such clarity. The principles that are driving Black entrepreneurs to refuse to give up, these are the same principles that will carry you into your soft girl era. These are the same principles that will help you release the cape, set the boundaries, reclaim the rest, and step into the version of yourself that you've been too tired, too scared, too conditioned to believe you deserve. Leverage targeted ecosystems. Stop trying to do everything yourself. What programs, what communities, what support systems are available to you right now that you've been too proud or too tired to access? Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's a women's circle, maybe it's a financial advisor or a business coach. Maybe it's just a friend who will listen without judgment, without trying to fix you, without expecting you to have it all together. You don't have to build your life alone. You were never meant to. Prioritize strategic partnerships. Who are the people in your life who can mentor you, who can introduce you to opportunities, who can validate your dreams and help you scale them? Stop isolating, start collaborating, start saying yes to the help that's being offered. Start understanding that partnership is not dependence, it's power. It's the recognition that we rise faster, higher, and with more joy when we rise together. Embrace community multiplier effects. Your success isn't just about you. When you rest, you give other women permission to rest. When you set boundaries, you show other women that boundaries are possible. When you choose softness, you create a ripple effect that transforms entire communities. Your healing is not selfish. Your joy is not frivolous. Your softness is not weakness. It's a revolution and it's contagious. Summer Smith reminded me that refusing to give up doesn't mean grinding until you break. It means building systems, partnerships, and communities that hold you up while you rise. It means knowing when to push and when to pause. It means understanding that your rest is not a luxury, it's a strategy. It's the thing that will keep you in the game long enough to win, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's watching, everyone who's waiting, everyone who needs to see that it's possible to be strong and soft, to be successful and rested, to be ambitious and whole. So here's my question for you. The one I want you to sit with long after this talk ends, the one I want you to wrestle with, journal about, pray over, and then act on. What one targeted partnership or funding program will you pursue this week to extend your entrepreneurial runway and turn barriers into breakthroughs, just like Canada's Black founders who refuse to give up? Maybe it's not a business program, maybe it's a boundary you need to set with a family member who's been draining your energy. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your boss about workload or flexibility. Maybe it's a dream you need to dust off, a vision you need to revisit, a community you need to reach out to. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's finally saying no to something that's been stealing your peace so you can say yes to something that will restore your soul. Because here's what I know for sure, what Summer Smith showed me, what these stories prove beyond any doubt. You are not meant to carry this alone. You are not meant to grind until you break. You are not meant to sacrifice your joy, your peace, your softness, your very life on the altar of productivity and performance. You are meant to build, to rest, to rise, and to do it all with the support of people who see you, who believe in you, and who refuse to let you give up on yourself. Summer Smith showed me that the future of Black entrepreneurship in Canada is bright, not because people are working harder, but because they're working smarter, together with intention, with strategy, and with an unshakable belief that they deserve to thrive. And sis, so do you. So do you. So here's my challenge to you. And I want you to hear this not as pressure, but as permission. I want you to identify one thing this week, just one thing that you've been trying to do alone, one dream you've been too scared to share, one burden you've been too proud to put down, one boundary you've been too guilty to set. And I want you to reach out. I want you to ask for help. I want you to say yes to support. I want you to leverage the ecosystem that's already around you, waiting to hold you up. Because refusing to give up doesn't mean you keep pushing through the pain. It means you stop, you breathe, you ask for what you need, and you trust that the community, the programs, the partnerships, the people who are meant to support you will show up when you finally let them in. No matter how hard life gets, you're still not giving up, but you're also not doing it alone anymore. You're building differently, you're resting intentionally, you're rising collectively. And that, sis, is the real revolution. That is the soft girl era. And it starts right now.